European Union officials decided the terms of Britain's transitional, also known as implementation, period in as little as 2 minutes when they sat down to discuss the deal on Tuesday. The European Commission's chief negotiator Michel Barnier affirmed the UK would have to respect and abide by the European Union's strict set of rules and regulations throughout the transition after March 2019, throughout the period Britain will have to abide by the rules, but will no longer be able to have an influence on the decision-making process, according to Mr Barnier. He said, "The EU position is very clear, the transition will last for 21 months, until December 31, 2020, Getty Brexit News. UK fishermen fear the EU transition could kill UK's fishing industry. The EU will be free to implement policy changes to our detriment." Alan Hastings, but Fishing for Leave, which represents fishermen across the country, has warned Britain will be locked into a legal purgatory. The group has called on Britain to push for an exemption of fisheries because they believe Brussels could cull what is left of Britain's fishing fleet, allowing the EU to claim the surplus, but Britain would no longer have the capacity to catch. Fishing for Leave spokesman Alan Hastings said, "If we fail to break free from the common fisheries policy, the EU will be free to implement policy changes to our detriment. We doubt the EU 27 would feel charitable to the political prisoner who has no representation but abundant fishing waters," long-time campaigner John Ashworth said. "Our primary concerns is continuity of rights under treaty law. We have always been concerned that adoption of all EU law to the UK statute book could allow the EU to cite that rights acquired under the Act we should continue to apply." The EU has stated this since its parliamentary briefing notes on Brexit in February 2016. A transition period compounds this danger, as it is part of a deal after we leave the EU under Article 50, and it will have to be underwritten by a new transition treaty between the two parties. Under the terms of the treaty, the UK will have agreed to reobey the entire acquis after we terminate our current membership, Monday, March 20, 2017, as we will either not terminate the new transition treaty, nor have a clearly defined Article 50 get-out clause where the treaties cease to apply. Then Article 70 of the Vienna Convention says, unless the treaty otherwise provides, the termination of a treaty does not affect any rights, obligations, or legal situations created through the treaty. In addition to this, Article 30 of the Vienna Convention provides that if a previous and latter treaty are not incompatible, and that the old treaty is not terminated, then the rights of that treaty will still apply. We will have created a continuity of rights by adopting all EU law and then agreeing to obey it as per the terms of a transition treaty. The EU could then argue for this in protracted litigation that would bind us into the CFP and hamstring the UK for years to come, and in a dire warning, Mr Hastings said Britain could lose a generation of fishermen. Mr Hastings said, "Once we have lost our industry, there is no way back. For this catch-22, if we do not have the fleet, we cannot catch the surplus, and if we do not have the surplus, we cannot maintain a fleet. With this we will also lose a generation and the skills which are irretrievable."